As promised, folks, I'm back with my live reaction to my very first read through of The Fellowship of the Ring. This is the book held in third most importance among Catholic circles. There is the Bible, there is the Catechism, and then apparently there is Lord of the Rings. I'm kind of surprised Father Mike Schmitz hasn't announced his Lord of the Rings in a Year podcast, but what do I know? Internet Catholic viewers. That's called hyperbole. I don't really believe that. Judge me as you will. Anyway, I just finished chapter 1 of The Fellowship of the Ring, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts. First of all, it was absolutely delightful. I was pleasantly surprised. I kind of was bracing myself for really long descriptions of stuff. I've read a lot of contemporary stuff where they get into the action, like the first page. So I wasn't really sure I was gonna, get into it. Because, like a lot of 21st century readers, I'm very, very ADD thanks to the internet and the many other distractions of modern life. However, while this opening of this book was much slower than a lot of more contemporary books, I really found it delightful, primarily because Tolkien does several things extremely well here. Number one, he sets up not only the world building, he doesn't only describe Hobbiton and, the culture of the hobbits, right? He sets up the characters, shows them immediately as likable, and also shows the dynamics of how, for example, Bilbo interacts with all of his relatives. And it's just so funny. It's so funny. It's so relatable. And quite honestly, I really wanted to attend Bilbo's birthday party. Pretty much the entirety of the first chapter, and the first chapter, if you're listening to the audiobook, is an hour long. Most of it is just Bilbo's birthday party. And pretty much every second of it was absolutely delightful. Just listening to how the hobbits were interacting, what they were eating, what their culture was like, the kind of complicated relationship Bilbo has with all of his relatives was super fun, and it made me really care about this world and want to protect this world from, any orcs or dark lords or anything that might hypothetically show up later in the book. So, good on you, Tolkien, for doing that so well and making me enjoy something that was a lot of world building and description, which I normally despise, but I normally despise it because people don't normally do it the way Tolkien does it, where he got me really hooked on and really caring about those characters. Bilbo was hilarious as a character, and I think I just forgot how funny he was as a character from, being kind of lost in all the different movies and all the different all the different material that's come out around the Lord of the Rings. Just reading him as he is in the books, he's spunky, he's cheeky, he's cunning, and he's totally relatable. I love how he just kind of sneaks out of Hobbiton to avoid having awkward goodbyes with his relatives. I love how he likes to prank people. One thing you get in the book that you don't get in the movies, because they don't have time for this kind of stuff in the movies, is the fact that he leaves presents to all of his friends and relatives when he leaves, and the presents are all very cheeky. So to a lot of the poor hobbits, he leaves really nice things that they really want. But then to the Sackville Bagginses, who are relatives just kind of hanging around because they want all of his stuff, he leaves them things that he knows that they've stolen over the years. So he leaves them his silver spoons and things like umbrellas. Which brings me to another point I'd like to bring up. A lot of people I've seen online complain about the fact that there are potatoes in Lord of the Rings, and that there were no potatoes in medieval Europe. Let me tell you some other things that are in the Lord of the Rings, the book, the source material, that are not in medieval Europe. Umbrellas, tea, what else? There was a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, y'all need to stop complaining and just enjoy the ride. This is fantasy. Calm down. Oh, hobbits. I don't think there were any hobbits in medieval Europe, but you know what? I wasn't there, so maybe I don't know. In any case, there's also one other thought that came to my mind as I was listening to this. And it sort of brought me back to the things that I enjoyed reading and watching as I was growing up that I feel like is lacking in a lot of media today, right? Lord of the Rings and Narnia, unlike many contemporary fantasy stories, right, have worlds that I would absolutely love to visit and spend time in. Like when I was a kid, I used to go around my house opening every closet trying to find Narnia because I wanted to go there so bad. And reading the first chapter of The Fellowship of the Ring, I was like, I really want to go to Bilbo's birthday party. It just sounds like so much fun, and all the characters sound interesting and fun, and they're all diverse and different. Pretty much all of the contemporary fantasies I've read recently have these absolutely horrible worlds with miserable characters. It's kind of like you start out in Mordor instead of starting out in Hobbiton. Like, all the fantasies I'm reading right now is like we open up and there's some poor, like, starving child in Mordor who's, got PTSD from having to survive on, like, rat carcasses and just hates everybody and nobody likes each other. And it makes it so much harder for me to care because I'm like, there's nothing in this world even worth saving at that point. And I encounter this in like every single modern fantasy I read. And don't get me wrong, there are some dark fantasies that are really good. I just finished up this book, The Cruel Prince, and that world is horrible, and none of the characters in that world are good guys. They're all like morally complex, but I feel like it's really well done, and it's done in a way that shows how complicated things are in that world. But so many other ones, it's just like, I feel like the author is trying so hard to be edgy. Like, everything has to be dark and dramatic, which to me is not relatable at all, because there are parts of my life that are dark and dramatic, sure. There are parts of my life that are happy and fun. Real life is a complicated color wheel of emotions, and I think stories like Lord of the Rings, Narnia, I remember loving like the Wizarding World, and Harry Potter is another one that I found really fun and interesting, and I wanted to protect that world from Voldemort, who threatened it. There are all kinds of fun fantasy worlds that I grew up with that I wanted to visit that I just don't see in adult contemporary fantasy. So I don't know why y'all are so depressed these days, but I don't know. It can be done well. It really can, and there can be some point to it. But I just wish it wasn't like every single fantasy book. Anyway, I've been babbling on long enough. We're almost at 8 minutes here, and unlike people who read The Lord of the Rings, I think I am way too ADD to make a video longer than 10 minutes. So I'll be back. I don't know if I'll make a video for every single chapter of Lord of the Rings, because that would be a lot. But if I have some thoughts as I go through, I'll continue to post these. So anyway, share your thoughts if you agree with me, if you think I'm totally off the mark. I would also love to hear from you if you know of any contemporary fantasy books that create a world like Hobbiton or like Narnia that you actually would really love to visit and be a part of. If you know of any books like that that are more modern, please share them with me, because I would love to be able to check those out. Or if you know any dark fantasies that are actually really well done and not just done to be edgy and depressing, I would love to hear about those too. So comment and let me know what you think.